Good morning, I'm Craig Negrelli. It's Wednesday, May 14th, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. Day 2 of President Trump's state visit to the Middle East, the GCC summit. It comes with a surprise sit-down with a former enemy. The president offers an olive branch and a chance for a new beginning for Syria. Also, a high-profile case that many across the nation are watching, the Menendez brothers. This morning, the men, convicted of killing their parents decades ago, have a chance for freedom. What the judge decided, how relatives of the men feel about it, and what happens next.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
As President Donald Trump continues his visit to the Middle East today, he held an unexpected meeting with Syria's new president in Saudi Arabia before moving on to Qatar for the next leg of his trip. The Syrian leader previously had ties to the terror group Al-Qaeda. U.S. forces at one point held him in custody in Iraq, but now President Trump says he wants to give Syria a chance at peace. It comes after the president announced overnight during a speech at the U.S.-Saudi Arabia Investment Conference the U.S. is lifting sanctions against Syria in an effort to strengthen ties with Saudi Arabia.
Oh, what I do for the Crown Prince. The sanctions were brutal and crippling and served as an important function, nevertheless, at the time. But now it's their time to shine. It's their time to shine. We're taking them all off, and they're going to have, I think they're going to have, based on the people and the spirit and everything else that I'm hearing about. So I say good luck, Syria. Show us something very special like they've done, frankly, in Saudi Arabia.
Donald Trump's meeting with Syria's President Ahmad al-Shara was the first encounter between the two nations' leaders in 25 years. The U.S. once offered $10 million for information about al-Shara's whereabouts because of his links to al-Qaeda. He came to power after leading the coup and overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad in December. He became president in January. In addition to lifting sanctions on Syria, President Trump and Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman also announced multiple economic and defense agreements. Now it's on to Qatar for the president, and the visit comes amid controversy as the country is set to gift Donald Trump a luxury jet to be used as Air Force One. Reports indicate Attorney General Pam Bondi signed off on the deal, saying it does not violate federal law. Critics argue it violates a clause which prohibits anyone in government from accepting a gift from any king, prince, or foreign state without congressional consent. In response, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says he has placed a hold on all Department of Justice political nominees and will not release it until Bondi explains her reasoning for saying that accepting the jet does not violate federal law. Once the jet is done being used as Air Force One, the plan is to transfer it to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation after President Donald Trump leaves office. At least 22 children were killed in Gaza early Wednesday in a series of Israeli airstrikes, according to local hospitals and health officials. Gaza's health ministry says the strikes killed at least 60 people in total. The attacks come a day after Hamas released an Israeli-American hostage in a deal brokered by the United States. Israel had paused military activity briefly for the release of Idan Alexander, but the attacks picked back up about 1 hour after Alexander left the territory. On Tuesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there is, quote, no way Israel will halt its war in Gaza until the militant group Hamas has been completely rooted out. A victory for the Trump administration when it comes to deporting suspected members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. A federal judge in Pennsylvania ruled the Trump administration can use the Alien Enemies Act to deport the reputed gang members who are in the country illegally. It appears to be the first time a federal judge has okayed the Trump policy of calling Tren de Aragua a terrorist organization and invoking the wartime law to deport suspected members. The judge also ordered the administration to give them 21 days' notice instead of 12 hours before their removal. The ruling did not say whether Donald Trump can invoke the Alien Enemies Act to deport migrants who are not members of a foreign terrorist organization, nor did the judge weigh in on the question of whether members of other suspected gangs could be removed under the same terms. President Trump issued the proclamation in March, saying that Tren de Aragua members had invaded the United States. He then began deporting suspected members to a prison in El Salvador. Also on Tuesday, a federal judge in the Western District of Texas barred the Trump administration from using the same Alien Enemies Act to deport people in that region of the country. Last month, federal agents arrested nearly 4 dozen suspected members of Tren de Aragua in a drug raid near Austin. A federal grand jury has indicted a Wisconsin judge accusing her of helping a migrant evade immigration authorities. Federal agents arrested Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan last month at the courthouse where she works. They say she obstructed government agents who were seeking to detain an undocumented immigrant by helping the man and his lawyer slip out the back way of the Milwaukee courthouse through a jury door, typically reserved for court staff, juries, and in-custody defendants. Dugan is charged with obstructing or impeding a proceeding before a department or agency of the United States and concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest. Federal authorities eventually caught the suspect outside after a foot chase down the street. The maximum penalty for the counts the judge now faces is a total of 6 years in prison as well as fines. Dugan is scheduled to enter her plea on Thursday morning. A major development in a high-profile double murder in California that happened decades ago. A judge in Los Angeles has reduced the sentences for Lyle and Eric Menendez to 50 years to life in prison. They are now eligible for parole. The Menendez brothers shot and killed their wealthy parents in their Southern California home in August of 1989. A court later sentenced them to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The Menendez brothers have long claimed their father sexually abused them. Their mother was complicit, and that was the reason for the killings. There have been movies and a documentary made about the murders, and the brothers have developed a following. A cousin testified on Tuesday. The Menendez brothers have learned the error of their ways, been completely rehabilitated in prison, and deserve to be released to their relatives, who would gladly take them in. However, the prosecutor argued the brothers, now in their 50s, have stuck to an absurd claim as the motive for the murders. Still, they now have the possibility of parole. The case is in the hands of the California Attorney General and Governor Gavin Newsom. A hearing in front of the parole board is set for June 13th. Finally this morning, baseball legends Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and 15 others banned by baseball over the years for gambling and other infractions are now eligible for the Hall of Fame. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred posthumously reinstated all 17 men Tuesday. Straight Arrow News sports reporter Chris Francis explains what led to the decision.
Rose is baseball's all-time hits leader with 4,256 during his 24-year career. He's a 17-time All-Star and also the leader in games played, at-bats, and wins by an MLB player. He won the World Series twice with the Cincinnati Reds and once more with the Philadelphia Phillies. In 2004, he admitted to betting on baseball while manager of the Reds. In the 2020 ESPN documentary Backstory, Banned for Life, Rose said he lost 30 years of his life after being banned by baseball, and it ate him up inside.
Just to take baseball out of my heart penalized me more than you can imagine. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think there's ever been a player, I could be wrong, I don't think there's ever been a player that loved the game like I did. You could tell I loved the game the way I played the game.
Joe Jackson had a career batting average of .356, the fourth highest in MLB history. He and 7 other White Sox players were banned from playing professional baseball in 1921 by MLB's first commissioner, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, for fixing the 1919 World Series. Manfred's decision to undo the bans is explained in a letter to attorney Jeffrey Lenkoff, who petitioned for Rose's removal from the ineligible list January 8th and has been working on behalf of the Rose family for more than a decade. The letter read in part, "Obviously, a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game. Moreover, it is hard to conceive of a penalty that has more deterrent effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. Therefore, I have concluded that permanent ineligibility ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual, and Mr. Rose will be removed from the permanently ineligible list." Jackson was considered by voters for the Hall of Fame for decades, but Rose's name never appeared on a ballot. He died of cardiovascular disease on September 30th, 2024, at age 83. The reinstatement of Rose and the others doesn't mean they would automatically appear on the Hall of Fame ballot.
At least 2 committees must approve any request, and the earliest any of them could potentially be enshrined in Cooperstown is the summer of 2028. For Straight Arrow News, I'm Chris Francis.
It was a really good report by Chris. You know, just my 2 cents, but I think had Pete Rose, while he was on this earth, been a little more contrite, this would have happened sooner. He was so insistent that he never bet on baseball that people really took sides, and it was somewhat of a polarizing issue. But this morning, good news for fans of Charlie Hustle. Those are your Unbiased Updates for this Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.